When you say something that is false without knowing it, it's a mistake. When you say something that you know is false, it's a lie. Hello and welcome once again to the Lepanto Institute podcast, Bold and Stupid Men. I'm your host, Michael Hitchborn. Well, the tablet is at it once again, attacking Cardinal Burke and the Grand Master of the Knights of Malta by lionizing the disgraced former Grand Sovereign Albrecht Boeselager. In early December, the tablet broke the story that Boeselager had been dismissed from his position as the Grand Sovereign due to his attempted cover-up of the distribution of condoms by the aid agency which he headed, called Malteser International. Further details revealed that Boeselager refused to resign as requested and then broke his oath of obedience by refusing to resign when ordered to do so, and was therefore suspended from the order. What I want to touch upon here are a few details that seem to be changing in the narrative ascribed to Boeselager, and then offer a few thoughts on the matter in general. Just before Christmas, the Lepanto Institute produced and published a new video report exposing the fact that Malteser International had been responsible for the promotion and distribution of both condoms and oral contraceptives in Africa and Myanmar from as far back as 2005 all the way to its current work. You can watch that video report, which is active on our homepage at www.lepantoinstitute.org. But here's where things get a little strange. What I'm going to do is give a timeline of events and illustrate how the narrative has changed. According to the tablet's first report of the strife inside the Order of Malta, which was published on December 9th, quote, sources inside the order say his dismissal, meaning Boeselager's dismissal, was over a row about condoms being distributed in Africa. Okay, so far so good. Malteser International did indeed distribute condoms in South Sudan. A 2011 report from the United Nations Development Program showed that Malteser was responsible for working toward the distribution of 95,000 condoms there. On December 14th, the tablet again reported on the situation, maintaining that the problems centered around the distribution of condoms in Africa. On December 14th, the tablet again reported on the situation, maintaining that, quote, the problems centered around the distribution of condoms in Africa. On December 22nd, after Pope Francis announced that he was launching an investigation into Boeselager's dismissal, the Lepanto Institute published a report on Malteser. Our report included the issue regarding condoms being distributed in Africa, but focused even more on the distribution of condoms and oral contraceptives in Myanmar. After the report on Malteser International came out, the narrative began to shift. On December 23rd, the tablet reported, quote, officials in the order also say that following an internal investigation, Boeselager admitted he knew about the condoms, but they were distributed by other aid programs, not his. The Vatican was informed the participation of Malteser International, the order's international relief arm, in the program ended, and an ethics committee was launched to ensure it wouldn't happen again. So, keep this in mind. There are two major points here. One, the tablet said that Boeselager knew about the condoms. And two, the tablet said that the condoms were distributed by other organizations, not by Malteser. But yesterday, January the 5th, the tablet mysteriously dropped the narrative regarding the distribution of condoms in Africa and shifted solely to the distribution of condoms in Myanmar. The tablet cites a statement from Boeselager that says, quote, he explained that condoms had been distributed by 3 projects in Myanmar without the order's knowledge. Citing Boeselager, it says, when this was discovered in the course of routine project auditing, 2 of these projects were immediately ended, he wrote. Quote, an immediate closure of the 3rd project would have led to the abrupt end of all basic medical services in the extremely poor region of Myanmar, so this dilemma was submitted to an ethics committee of the order. Subsequently, the project was closed following a statement by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Now wait a minute. On December 23rd, the tablet said that Boeselager knew about the condoms. But then on January 5th, the tablet quoting Boozelager, said that the condoms were distributed without the order's knowledge. What's not entirely clear here is what is meant by without the order's knowledge. This could mean that Boozelager knew, but the rest of the order didn't, which implies that he hid the information. Or it could mean that Boozelager and the order did not know about the condoms, in direct contradiction with what was said on December 23rd, that he admitted to having known about the condoms. But let's go back to the other issue here, which is that the tablet reported on December 23rd that the condoms were distributed by other organizations, not by Malteser. I'm going to cite a couple of pieces of information we collected that will show that this is completely untrue. A UNAIDS document from 2007 says, quote, Malteser distributed condoms to highway truck drivers and at health centers, including those of its partner, Health Unlimited, and at market days. End quote. This isn't distribution by other partners. This is distribution by Malteser itself. But there's more. Page 54 of that very same document provides a chart of condoms distributed through that project, broken down by the various organizations participating in the project, and it very clearly shows that Malteser distributed 59,675 condoms. But UNAIDS isn't the only organization showing that Malteser International itself distributed condoms. In 2006, the World Health Organization conducted an analysis of reproductive health programs in Myanmar. On page 45 of this report, the World Health Organization shows that Malteser International began its reproductive health programs there in 2004. Page 91 of this analysis has a chart, and this chart shows birth spacing and contraceptive services provided by various aid agencies in Myanmar. Under the activity identified as oral contraception, Malteser is identified as a provider of oral contraceptives for 2,500 women. Page 94 shows that Malteser provided condoms to 297,000 people. But let's not just rely on two independent sources. Let's make absolutely certain that Malteser itself was responsible for the distribution of condoms. Let's get a third, solid, independent source to verify this fact. Okay, in 2008, the Three Disease Fund produced a 2-page summary of Malteser International's project in Myanmar. After identifying Malteser International as the implementing agency, the summary sheet says, quote, condoms distributed, SWs, meaning sex workers, 130,000. Men and women of reproductive age, 104,000. Workers, 32,000. To truck drivers, 25,700. Uniformed personnel, 20,000. So what do we have here? We have three independently verified sources, UNAIDS, the World Health Organization, and the Three Disease Fund, all saying the same thing. Malteser International distributed condoms in Myanmar. But what is Boozelager claiming? Once again, on December 23rd, the tablet reported Boozelager admitted he knew about the condoms, but they were distributed by other aid programs, not his. You know, when you say something that is false without knowing it, it's a mistake. When you say something that you know is false, it's a lie. When Boozelager claims that the distribution of condoms was done by other organizations, he is lying about it. When the tablet quietly shifts the attention from the distribution of condoms in Africa to the distribution of condoms in Myanmar, it engages in a deception, attempting to make it seem as though it was an isolated incident when it clearly was not. But another narrative the tablet is trying to maintain is that this whole issue has been resolved 3 years ago. This also is untrue. In June of 2014, Malteser International put out a job listing for a counselor for its ongoing programs in Myanmar. The job listing, which was written by Malteser International itself, lists counseling on correct and consistent use of condoms as one of the job requirements. But wait a minute. Boozelager said in his statement yesterday that the condoms were being distributed without the order's knowledge. How can the order not know about the condom distribution if Malteser International is taking out its own job advertisements specifying that counseling on condom use would be a requirement of the job? And that's not all. Even now, Malteser International's website says, quote, AIDS cannot be cured. Interrupting the chain of infection is the only effective protection. Parentheses, condom, femidom, which is a female condom, mother to child, and no needle sharing. End quote. Make no mistake about it. Boozelager is lying when he says that condoms were being distributed by other organizations and not Malteser International. He's also lying when he says that the condom distribution was being done without Malteser's knowledge. Now, before we close, here are a few things regarding the story that need to be pointed out. According to the January 5th article by The Tablet, both Cardinal Burke and Grandmaster Matthew Festing defied the wishes of Pope Francis by forcing Boozelager out. Citing 2 letters sent from Cardinal Parolin, the Vatican Secretary of State, to Matthew Festing, The Tablet claims that, quote, the Pope did not want Boozelager sacked. As a result, the Holy See decided to set up an investigation into the Knights, end quote. Here's the thing. Boozelager was forced to resign on December 6th. The 2 letters cited by The Tablet are dated December 12 and December 21. Boozelager had already been forced to resign by the time these letters were written. So no, Cardinal Burke and Grandmaster Festing did not defy the wishes of Pope Francis. But this bogus commission, which is an obvious attempt to smear both Cardinal Burke and Matthew Festing, misses another very important detail. Boozelager broke his vow of obedience when he refused to resign as ordered by his superior. This is incredibly serious. The Constitutional Charter and Code of the Knights of Malta explains this very clearly. Article 61 says, quote, with the vow of obedience, professed knights and chaplains bind themselves to obey the Holy Father and their legitimate superiors in accordance with the Constitution and Code. The Grand Master, being the supreme head of the order, is Boozelager's legitimate superior. By ordering Boozelager to resign, Boozelager is obliged, under his oath of obedience, to comply. He refused to comply, twice. As a result of failing to comply, the Grand Master, with the support of the Sovereign Council, enacted Article 123, which states, under suspension and dismissal, paragraph 1, suspension is a temporary disciplinary measure which may be imposed on a member of the order, Part C, if the member is under investigation by the courts for a grave act of moral nature, verified by the Grand Master with the assistance of the Sovereign Council. In the case of holders of elective office, the consent of the Sovereign Council, expressed with a 2/3 majority, and the vote of the Grand Master is required. According to all accounts, this procedure was properly followed and applied. But let me tell you something, folks. This story isn't going away anytime soon. But here at the Lepanto Institute, we're doing whatever we can to counter the lies and subterfuge being enacted against Cardinal Burke and Grandmaster Festing. Due to the nature of this particular battle, my own family has committed to pray our daily rosary specifically for Cardinal Burke and the Order of Malta, and we ask all of you sincerely and devotedly to pray for them as well. And with that, this is all the time that we have for today, but we'll be back again next week. In the meantime, if you like what we do at the Lepanto Institute, please consider making a tax-deductible donation by going to our webpage, www.lepantoinstitute.org/donate. Until next time, may Our Lady's Immaculate Heart rain graces upon you all. God bless you.